Hey guys, welcome back. ARTFX Studios Tutorial Tuesday, season number 3 about Neurofunk drum and bass. This is episode number 10. Today I want to be making some drums, I think. Just want to get some drums going and try to create some interesting stuff. This video is this season is going to be quite long. And the reason because of that is that I really want to go in and show you every different part of making a track. And I basically show the entire process, you know. So when I make a track, there's a lot of times when I create things and then later on I decide I need to change things up or I need to remove it or add something more. And I feel that most tutorials don't talk about that, you know. They just talk about selecting a sample, selecting a sound, creating a certain sound, set this knob to that value and so on. That's not what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to show you the exact process of creating a tune. And with that comes mistakes that are made or things that might not end up in the final tune. You know, there's a lot of times when that happens. You create something and later on you decide, hey, I need something else. You ditch it or you just work on it a little bit more to make it better. And I feel like most tutorials don't look at that part of music production, and that's why I'm doing this season. So that's enough talking. Let's get started. First of all, I know that this intro, or at least part of the intro, the first part, sounds like the intro of Noisia Lost Cause. I know that, I'm fully aware of it, and I've said it right now, so you don't have to say it in the comments anymore. I'm gonna change this later on. I don't know what I'm gonna do with it yet, so I'm gonna keep it in for now. I'm just gonna play you this, and then we're gonna start making some drums. Oh, let me play it from the exact start. Getting some audio dropouts. Okay, we were getting some audio dropouts. That happens occasionally if you have a lot going on in a project. I know, for instance, that the electronic guitar in this one is really taking up a lot of CPU. So that's most likely the problem. I'm gonna play you this part again. I did some things, right? I've changed a couple of things. The first thing I did is I took out the violin from the intro. I don't know why. I think it sounds a bit too, I don't know. I don't need that kind of sustained sound in the background. So I felt it sounded better without it. So I've deleted it like that. Um, Now I'm also gonna change that duduk. That's gonna be somewhere in the upcoming videos. So just keep it there. Um, I also made a change to the electric guitar. We have the build up, and the build up sounded like this, which is good. I mean, it's okay, but I like that. I like that electric guitar in there. I made a cool little pattern. I can show you. So I've made this pattern. Now, why does it sound the way it sounds? Why do we have this interesting kind of thing? Well, you can see I'm playing around with the velocities a lot. So I'm using really quiet notes, which are those. And I'm using the more open notes, the louder notes, which are those. So these are actually power chords. These are just power chords using an octave spread, I think. So I'm playing these in a really loud volume, which just gives you that. And playing them on a lower volume gives you a muted sound. So that's a mute. Now, you can do that inside Shreddage. So we have Shreddage right here, and I can see I have my sustains, so that would be the first note, that louder note, is actually a sustain because it's somewhere between these velocity values, between 70 and 126. And between 2 and 96, we have the palm mutes. So those are actually those muted sounds. And I'm doing that on both of my Shreddage instruments. And using those mutes together with the more louder, the more open chord sounds, the power chords, definitely creates an interesting sound. And you can use those mutes to really create interesting stuff. So this particular pattern on its own, let me just zoom out a bit. So that pattern on its own sounds really interesting. Now, there are some more things we could do with this. I can zoom in on this, for instance, and we could do something like this. Might want to move it up to the normal notes. So these are not the power chords. So these are just the normal notes. And I could do something like this as well, which is pretty interesting. I played around with it, but I decided not to use it. But we could do this as well. So we have like a syncopating rhythm between the lower muted notes and the power chords, and the more upper notes, which are actually lower than the power chords. These ones actually only have the low note that you hear in this one. So this one is actually this G and that G together. So it's pretty easy. Now, with those muted normal notes, so just the normal one string notes, and then the muted versions, we get something like this. Which sounds really good as well, but which sounds pretty good. Now I could move this up. And you can really hear that more open sound coming through. Now, I don't want that. I just want to have these kind of notes, and I like that little gap in between. That little gap will actually make the release sound of the notes come through a little bit, and that's pretty good. It makes it sound quite realistic. Um, and I felt like having these pauses in between the notes actually made more sense because it's a build up, you know, and um, the gaps in between those notes are filled up by the other sounds, and we have our FX layer as well, which fills out the gaps in between those notes too. So um, I felt that rhythm actually was more than enough. And I felt it sounded pretty good. So I've done that, and I think that's about it. Let me see. Yeah, that's it. So I want to start making some drums today, and the most easy way to do this is by taking a part of the intro. So I'm just gonna take that guitar, you know, because I know that guitar sounds good, and I'm gonna make a set of drums. So I want to make those drums sound good with the track. So because I don't have a part of the drop yet, and I don't have something to make my drums to, I'm actually just gonna place that build up electric guitar underneath the main drums part and just play around with it. Now having that guitar in there will help to make drums that work with the intro. And that's something really important. You know, you definitely want to make sure that um, your drums sound good with the rest of your track. Drum sounds still have a particular key. It's not that drum sounds are really a playable instrument, but they still have a key. They still have a certain tone to them. And you can still pitch drums to your skills. So, what I would like to do is always make sure that the drums sound good with the track, and having that layer in there will help achieve that. So, I already made that pattern, and I'm using, again, just two drum sounds. I'm using the kick tight number 3 from the break tweaking library, and I'm using the snare tight number 7 from the break tweaker library as well. Really good snare, and just on their own. I think it sounds pretty good. Now, I like that. What I'm also going to do is I'm going to set the amount of voices to 1. That will help to make sure that there's only going to be one kick playing at a time. So if I play a couple of kicks really fast after each other, they will actually cut each other off. That's pretty good. The reverb tails or the release tails will not overlap, and that's pretty good. Now, there is something I really like about drum rack. If I open up the chain list right here, you can see we get a whole bunch of new buttons right here. The bottom two are pretty cool. These are the send and return tracks. So you actually have your return tracks right here, but inside each drum rack, you will get another send return track. And that's pretty cool. You know, you can actually create return tracks in your drum rack and have those apply just to the sounds in your drum rack. Pretty cool. And above that, we have the I/O switch. Now, the I/O will actually, it will make you, the I/O switch will give you the possibility to route your sound in certain ways. So I'm going to click that, and I can see that the first kick is receiving a note of C1. So if I play C1 on my keyboard, it will actually play C3 on the drum rack sample, on the sampler. So that's pretty cool. And we can change that. I mean, I can change this to a D if I want. And now we're going to get a higher pitch kick drum. Now, another thing I can do is this choke thing. Now, choke is really great because what it does is basically you set choke up like this. For instance, I set the kick drum to 1, and then I set the snare drum to 1 as well. What's going to happen is as soon as the snare drum will play, it will cut off the kick drum, and also the other way around. So if you do really fast things like these two behind each other, really fast, normally the release of the kick drum will be underneath the snare drum. Now, as soon as the snare drum starts, it will cut off the kick drum. Now, on this one, it's not really needed, so I'm not going to do this, but I wanted to show that to you. I'm going to use it, however. I'm going to use that on the hi-hat layer. Hi-hats are really great, and it's great to use that choke on the hi-hats. You can sort of like recreate the sound of a drum kit, you know? I mean, if you have a hi-hat on a real drum kit, you have one device, one drum, on which you can play both your closed hi-hats and your open hi-hats. So there's no way possible that you can play both closed and open hi-hats at the same time using just one drum. It's just not possible. You would need 2 hi-hat drums for that. So what you can do is you can use that choke in here to recreate that sound. When a real drummer plays a closed hi-hat followed by an open hi-hat, and then followed by a closed hi-hat again, that closed hi-hat will cut off the open hi-hat. And that's really cool, and you can recreate that. So let's just try and do that. I'm going to create not an audio track. I'm going to create a new MIDI track. Fuck. MIDI track. Right. So we now have this MIDI track, and I'm going to call this hi-hats, and I'm going to give it the same red color. Now, I need to look for some hi-hats. So let's, I like that one. Sounds great. I'm going to place it in here. It's going to make a sampler, or simpler. I'm going to make it a sampler. And then I want to group this to a drum rack. Let's just keep it as a simpler instrument for now. I'm going to bring that release down a little bit. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a clip right here. And let's just create a really simple pattern. Just that. That's all that we need for now. So with the main drums. You can hear it definitely sounds good. Now, I need to look for an open hi-hat. So I like those two. Let's see which one sounds best. So I'm going to place the open hi-hat on the next drum rack slot. Like that. And I'm going to bring that release down a little bit. Or we could actually leave the release up. Might be pretty interesting. Let's just keep it up. I want to place it right here. Between, on the offbeat, on the last beat. So we get something like this. Now, you can hear that the open hi-hat does not stop right when this hi-hat starts. You can hear that kind of overlapping thing. Now, here is where the actual choke thing comes into play. So I'm going to open up the chain list and I'm going to click I/O. Now I can see right here my choke, I'm going to set it to 1. And on the open hi-hat, I'm also going to set it to 1. And now we will actually get the more realistic sound. See? So it now immediately chops that open hi-hat off. And we can start to play around with this. I actually like it over there. I'm also gonna try out this one, just to see how that one sounds. Okay, I like the other one more. That sounds pretty good. Now I want to add something more. For creating drum and bass drum loops, there is a trick that I use a lot, and I need to create an audio track for that. So let me just solo that audio track. All of you guys most likely have Vengeance drum loops, right? So there are all these Vengeance loops called Vengeance Essential Club Sounds and Vengeance Essential House. All of these that sound pretty good. And what I want to do is I just want to go into one of these. Let's just take Vengeance Essential Club Sounds Volume 3. And I'm going to go to the Loops folder. And you might be thinking, is he going to use loops? Yeah, I'm going to use loops. And I'm going to show you why using loops can be really interesting. So let's just go and take something. I'm going to drag that in and I'm just going to look at it and see if I like that. Now, the first thing I'm looking for is a sample that is straight on the beat. So I don't need anything with swing. The reason I'm looking for that is because swing, I'm not using swing in this track. So if I'm going to use a particular loop that has swing, I will have to start warping it and do all kind of things to make it fit. With this is pretty much straight. It's not perfect, but it's pretty much straight on the beat. So if I play this now, we can hear that we get that loop speed up, which sounds okay. But we are currently using the complex warping mode, and I'm gonna set this to beats, and I'm gonna set the transient to play only once. So I don't want any looping going on. I just want the transient to play once. Now this immediately makes the drum sound much better. It actually preserves those transients that are in the original sound. And I can bring down the this, which is actually the decay, the envelope of the transient. Doing this will actually make each transient shorter. And what I then can do is I can basically make this twice as long. So we get something like that. Make it a bit higher on the envelope. And with the drums, I'm going to group this, by the way, in a group called drums, which will make it a bit easier to play the entire drums at the same time. Okay, that one doesn't really sound too good. So it actually doesn't sound too bad. It doesn't sound too bad. I'm just gonna keep that in here for now. Let's duplicate this track and turn this one off. So what I'm doing is I'm just looking for interesting things. Let's try this one. This could actually work. Let's just try this out. Again, this one is pretty straight on the beat, but it's really fast. Not really what I'm looking for. Now, the biggest thing that I found out that really works great is when you take loops like this and you just make sure that they're warped to the tempo so they're perfectly in sync, like this one. And then you just double the tempo, or actually you halve the tempo. So, damn. People are fucking working outside and I probably think you can hear that. But, no, what you do is you click this ×2. So we can now see that it actually thinks that the BPM of this loop is not 140, but 280 BPM. And what that is going to do it will make that loop sound like that. Now, this is not really the best example, I think. No, it's not really the best example. I might want to try something else. Let's just go to a more house kind of thing. I'm going to go to house loops. This could actually work. Now, I can see it's pretty much straight on the beat, which is good. I'm going to bring that transient a bit up. And from its own, it sounds like this, which could actually work. I think this actually sounds pretty good. Now, I definitely want to try it out with a longer tempo, so 256 BPM, and is this straight? Yeah, it's pretty straight. Let's try out a different folder. Let's try out Essential House Volume 1. Now, the only thing that's not perfectly on the beat is that note. So what I could do is make this fit by doing that. Just make it fit on the beat. And then just take that one and move it to the right spot. So now we actually took this loop. And I can do that, do that, do that, that. Just warp it so that it fits. So this loop is 140 or 128 BPM, sorry. And I think it actually sounds pretty good, but I want to use this in a more slower rhythm. But it's always a matter of trying to find something that sounds good, and that can be quite difficult. That one is not straight at all. I was playing around with this last week and it really worked great, so that might work. So you get what I mean. Now it sounds a bit better. It is using some kind of triplet. I do that. Sounds pretty good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this again and just try and find one more. I want to make one that sounds a little bit slower, so we get something like. And I might want to look pretty short reverb. I can try it out with some reverb. Now I might want to change the loop itself. That could work. If I make this longer. Whoa, I quite like that. Don't know why, but I just like the sound of that. That high-pitched kind of sound sounds pretty cool. I can try this, make it longer. I like the sound of that one. So let's try out this one. I'm gonna give this one some reverb as well, because I think with the reverb it sounds pretty good. You can hear, we get a bit more of a filled out drum loop now. And now we would actually have to go and process these. So I don't want that low end. I just need that. Same for this one. Don't need all that low end. We might want to add some compression to this to bring everything up. So I can really squash this if I want. I really do. I think it sounds better without. Got to take out everything. I just need the high end from this. I'm gonna boost the upper highs a bit more. Do that. Like that. So we went from that to sounds better. It's definitely not finished yet. There's a whole lot of work to be done on this. Now, first thing I want to do is I want to make sure that this is not clipping. So I'm gonna take a glue compressor, and we're clipping quite hard already. So what I want to do is I'm going to put a utility in front of the glue compressor, and I'm gonna set this to -10. So we're gonna go down 10 decibels, and then we're gonna get the compressor. I'm gonna compress this a bit, and then bring that up until I can see it clipping, and then I'm gonna enable. So we get that. Another kick drum. We might want to add some EQing to that. See how that kick drum. Could do that. I'm not totally sure if I want to do it. So, let's take a look at the snare. Scoop out a bit of those mids, and I'm gonna do the same on the kick drum. Just scoop out a little bit of mid. I don't need that one. Don't need that one. Just gonna scoop out. Just gonna do that. Hi-hats. Add some EQing to that as well. Just to get rid of some of those lows, which aren't really in there anyway, but yeah, that sounds pretty good. I can add a little bit of reverb to that. Not too much. That's it for today's video. We've made some drums, and I showed you a little bit about using the electric guitar. Next week, I want to continue on the drum section. Gonna make sure that the drums really are going to stand out a bit more than what they do right now. And then we will actually get into making the bass and making the drop section of the track. I don't really have a clue what I'm going to do with that yet, so it's going to be a big surprise for me as well. If you like these videos and want to see more of them, you can come to my website, and you can actually go to my website right now because there is a new website online. You can find it at www.artfx-studios.com. I launched a new website last week. At the end of this week, I'm going to launch the new forum, and there's a whole bunch of new stuff coming up on the website as well. From now on, every Sunday on my website, you can find a blog post, and that blog post will be Sample Digging Sunday. So what I'm going to do is every Sunday I'm going to make a blog post that will show you 3 sample-worthy tracks, old tracks. You know, I'm going to do 3 tracks from a certain specific year on every one of these blog posts. So these blog posts will not be talking about how to sample, why to sample, or with what to sample. These will just be aimed at finding new samples. So it will make your music knowledge wider, it will make your music interest wider, and it will most likely make you realize some new samples, make you find some new samples. I use quite some sampling. I like sampling, but I always try to make things different. And I just want to give you guys, some insight in my sample library, and especially in my tracks that I would sample library. Now, you can also follow me on my social media. You can follow me on Twitter, SoundCloud, Facebook, whatever you want. You can come there, follow me, like me, subscribe me, whatever, I don't know. And I'll keep you up to date. Yeah, other than that, I hope you like this video, and I hope to see you back soon.